and welcome to another edition of Pit Lane Parlay. My name is host Mike Jokum. With me, I have my co-host Jess Baker, and joining us for the first time is former writer from ESPN, now kind of writing on his own, John Oreovicz. John, how you doing? Jess, how you doing? Yeah, no problem at all, man. Thank you for the time this evening as we come down to the final few days before the IndyCar season finally starts, and this 6 month layover is over. But it wasn't without an interesting week of news. And I guess we can just dive right in. For those who happen to be in St. Pete, there is the Sebastian Bourdais charity karting event tonight. But Jess, what are you most looking forward to this season? Whether it be the new aero kit, the amount of new teams, new sponsors. We'll start it off with that as our season preview, and then I'll turn it over to John for the same question. Yeah, I think I can echo that last sentiment there, and the anticipation. This is been one of the slowest weeks leading up to the season I can remember. Just from every day seems like it's going slower and slower. Maybe that's the weather outside too here, but yeah, I think you guys both hit some great points, and I saw some video of testing. I think it was at Sebring with the Clam and DeMello and a couple other cars really sliding around one corner there, which got me all sorts of excited, and I think it's going to be some great racing. And I saw today a link to an article that I didn't get time to read about how there's going to be a lot more emphasis on driver engineer relationship this year, and really nailing that setup. You have the potential to really miss it this year. Yeah, I think the Ray Hall comment is one I've been saying for a couple of weeks now. It just feels like every time that they've been practicing somewhere or testing somewhere, whether it be the Phoenix test or these Sebring tests, or I think when he was out west in Sonoma, if I'm not mistaken, they've always been strong. And whether they've been the fastest or not, they've always been in the top five or so, and that's been both cars. switching gears slightly, John, we have a tradition here of just asking some offbeat, not racing questions. And as a guest, we're gonna put you on the spot. Jess, I'll leave it to you for which one you want to start with, and then we'll intermingle some racing stuff back in there. Do you have enough cheese? Oh, I love it. I'm gonna write that down in the notes so I don't forget that answer. Cheese. So I will switch gears back into the racing world. Happy to see Connor Daly get a shot at the 500 this year, even though it's not a full season ride with Dale Coyne and Tom Burns Racing, who I believe was formerly in some sort of partnership with Buddy Lazier a couple years ago. But that U.S. Air Force car, the renderings of it available on Motorsport are pretty cool looking, and hopefully this he's able to have a strong showing, and it leads to better things for Connors. I think as we've seen in the most popular driver of 2017 poll, it's last I checked a couple hours ago was down to pretty much either him or Hinchcliffe. They were neck and neck over whoever else was left in the poll. So yeah, I was surprised we didn't see more of a New Garden or like you said, Will Power or Dixon, and for Connor Daly to run away, and he's definitely one of the stronger social media presences of IndyCar. Definitely goes to show how important it is. Yes. Yeah, for sure. So hopefully he can test well. I know, I believe both him and other the other youngster in Sage Karam will be testing at Indianapolis the end of March. I think the 27th is the open test. Yes, forgot to mention, obviously this, John, we have a running joke here that we have not made it an episode yet, and I think this is number 12 without at least mentioning Danica within the first 15 minutes. And yeah, she announced today she was driving the number 13 car, and there were all sorts of, you know, running jokes about bad luck that the car is green, bad luck that it's number 13, and all sorts of other indie superstitions out there. Definitely curious to see how she does in the test. I could put money on it that, similar to Alonso last year, maybe we'll get a live stream out of it, because I'm sure it'll bring in a ton of interested people. Yeah, that's for sure. uh, Yeah, it's funny you guys bring up Alonso. I was reading about how terrible the McLaren testing has gone so far this week, wherever they are in Europe. And Alonso not worried, but maybe it wasn't the Honda F1 engine that was the problem all along. I'll just leave it at that. I haven't researched into that one too much. I don't know about either of you guys. Yeah, it's definitely been a struggle so far for the McLaren team. Switching gears back to IndyCar, I'm going to throw a prediction out there for both of you guys. I think it's something Jess and I have talked about at some point, but I know my opinion has changed as we've gone about the testing here. Rookie of the year vote, or early rookie of the year vote, and uh, season champion vote. Jess, I can't remember the last time we talked about that second one there, but John, I'll turn it over to you first. Wickens, Veach. I am going to pull up the list as we speak here. Obviously, Pietro Fittipaldi, Clam and DeMello. Yeah, yeah, he's a little goofy looking. Yeah, I'll go second here. Just adding the couple rookies I missed. Renee Binder and Kyle Kaiser sharing the seat. Jack Harvey with a couple races. Jordan King, handling the road and street, and Mateus Leist. I Yeah, I mean, we all saw Leist in Phoenix have a almost 4 or 5 brush ups there against the wall in that last day. My pick for rookie of the year, since I'm gonna not go with Wickens, although I do think he is the safe bet. He's definitely the most quote unquote seasoned of the rookies. I'll go with Fittipaldi. He was impressive in testing. He's been impressive in the Phoenix test and the other road and street tests so far. And I know he's only in 7 races, but one of those races happens to be the Indy 500, which is automatically double points. So maybe those double points and a good finish. Not saying he's going to win the Indy 500. Propel him over the top and give him the Rookie of the Year season championship. I really wanted to go Graham Rahal, but in the interest of choosing somebody else, I'm gonna go Scott Dixon. I think he's got it dialed back in. Ganassi kind of retooling in the offseason should help them out as long as they don't miss wildly on setups on any races, and he's able to avoid unfortunate incidents in the 500 this year. But um, yeah, my gut says Wickens is probably the safe bet for Rookie of the Year, like you said. He's got the full season. He's at least a couple of years older than some of the other rookies. I think he's 25 or 26, maybe already. Even though he looks like he's about 19, which is still better than Zach Veach, who, don't get me wrong, he's an incredibly nice guy, but who looks like he's about 13. Uh, yeah, exactly. Um, so definitely interested to see how the rookie class plays out, considering out of the 24 cars we have starting week one, 7 or 8 are rookies. So, definitely should mix up the racing a little bit. But I will turn it over to Jess for her answer. And then, Jess, I'll let you segue right into another one of your comedic questions. Yeah, your fun questions. Cliche. Jess, I'll let you keep going. I think it's funny. We call my dog the cat dog, um, but as this pit lane parlay social media world knows, my dog is definitely just a dog. I think my allergies and cats would probably not get along in the end. We're making this a weekly theme, talking about pets in the middle of our racing episodes, which is fantastic because my my dog loves the snow. Yes. Yeah, I think I forget. I know I said this on an episode at some point recently, or maybe just to Jess when we weren't recording. But my wife, who doesn't really follow IndyCar racing, knows who drivers are based on their dogs. So if I show up a dog, she goes, "Oh yeah, that's Marco's dog. Oh, that's that guy Hinch's dog, right?" Um, yeah, there you go. All of them have some good their own social media accounts, which are always worth a follow, and pretty fun to follow along with. Or you can follow along with. I know my dog has his own social media account, but I'm not gonna. Yes, even better. Yes, that's pretty much every once in a while on our podcast social media, you get a picture of the dog sleeping under my feet while he's recording, or every once in a while, as I'm sure most people have heard, you hear Jess's dog or my dog barking in the background at whatever happens to be going on. Usually for me, it's a squirrel outside. Um, there's a bunch of big trees right next to my window here. But moving on, I saw a pretty cool article come out. It's not really so much an article, but speaking of the new new technology in the cars this year, the display panels that previously just listed what place the drivers were running in now can have their speed, different logos. We saw Graham Rahal with an American flag and the Honda and Chevy logos at the Phoenix test. I'm interested to see how and what they're going to do with it this year, because it could be pretty cool, especially for the younger generation who's into the technology. Um, and I'm going to segue that into your guys' opinion and maybe how IndyCar could do this. I was impressed with F1's. I forget the terminology they use. The streaming package, where for $8 to $10 a month, you stream every test, every practice, every race, and I believe you get a bunch of in-car cams and maybe some sort of radio transmissions. I forget exactly what it entails, but I thought, at $8 or $9 a month, that it was pretty reasonable, and could really bring in the younger millennial crowd who wants to sit in front of a computer and stream things versus sitting down and watching on the couch and having traditional cable television. I'll turn it over to either of you guys and get your opinion on this, and see if you think is this a viable addition to IndyCar's next TV contract. John? Yeah, I think that's yeah, a fantastic point all around. And I am still in the old days having cable TV, because unfortunately they do not stream the NHL very well onto mobile devices just yet, for the most part. Or at least that's in any quality that's remotely decent. So if I can get my Flyers games on my phone or on my computer, and IndyCar comes up with a streaming solution, I'm sure I would change tune pretty quickly on that one. I think if they can keep it in that price point, that's $10 a month, give or take, and whatever they need to do, if they need to have one of the sides of the screen be a some sort of advertisement. Um, definitely. I'm sure that'll happen in some way, or some sort of you know thing like YouTube where an ad pops up before your video plays, and that really wouldn't bother me too much. And it would be great to be able to watch a race on my phone for the times where I can't be near a TV, or some other issue comes up, or I'm stuck working somewhere. Definitely, a big fan of that, and big fan of what F1 did with that. It's probably one of the best things I've seen come out of F1 in quite some time in general. Um, Switching gears, yeah. I mean, so IndyCar is in the unique position where, as David Malsher wrote on Motorsport.com, they're on the upswing for and for more than a few reasons, and we won't go through all of them. So it might take another hour, but they're at a point now where if they can negotiate a decent TV contract, it kind of seems like the way of these TV contracts for sports in general is it's you're not getting that mega contract anymore. It's a couple of years, and maybe they negotiate in a couple of years. Maybe Hulu or one of those type of things is really taking over versus TV, and then everything is just streamed. And having used Hulu streaming before, it has a little ways to go technically to be viable, but definitely would be great to be able to sit in an airport and watch an IndyCar race instead of having to DVR it while you travel. Slight change of gears. I know there are plenty of IndyCar fantasy buffs out there with the general IndyCar.com league. IndyCar Nation is running that league. It's IndyCarNation.indycar.com. Maybe we'll try to host our own little pit lane parlay group on there if that's possible. And I know Jess and I are in another league with IndyCar Encyclopedia man Matt Hickey, and I'm a rookie in that league this year, so I know I'm going to win. Or at least I'm going to beat Jess this year. I'm just going to leave it at that. Um, so that'll be fun. I know there's quite a few who are into the fantasy sports. I am terrible at all fantasy sports. I don't know about you, John or Jess, but I just never. I think I was saying this, and it was one of our first episodes, or might have been when I was just talking to. I think I was just talking to Jess. Last year did the IndyCar Fantasy League, and every year my dad and I just do our own little separate group and compete against each other. And going into the Indy 500, I was ranked in the top 200 worldwide, and I'm going, "Oh, great, I'm going to nail the Indy 500." And I went to a wedding the night before the race and forgot to make my picks because I wasn't feeling too well the next morning. So I dropped from 200th place to pretty much the bottom of everybody competing, and never recovered for the rest of the year. So I have already set reminders in my phone for each race to make my picks for the public league and for uh, the league that Jess and I are in, because I really don't want that to happen again. Yeah, rookie mistake. I know, had too many drinks and forgot to make his fantasy picks. But what about you, Jess? Sir? Any luck in fantasy? I know you had a decent year in the uh, other IndyCar league last year. system. Yep. Yeah, I'm not. I will. I'm not going to announce who my picks are for that league because I don't want to give you any help there, Jess. But maybe after each race, I'll divulge who my picks are for the. Uh, oh yeah, that's right. That's right. For the other league. Uh, yeah. Moving on. We're kind of getting towards the end of the episode here. Um, Jess, is there any other off-topic questions you wanted to ask? I saw an interesting Facebook thread going that I wanted to get your guys' opinion on, but I'll turn it over to you first, Jess. Sure. Um, John, I don't know if you saw this on Facebook. It was on the Fantastic American Open Wheel Racing Facebook group, which always has plenty of interesting discussion. Oftentimes has so many comments, I can't keep up with it. Um, but there was a rumor going around that if they get 35 or 36 Indy 500 entries, that instead of the general tradition of bump day, that there would be 35 or 36 cars. And for those out there who may not know, in the original days there were less than 33 cars, and then in 1979 and 1997 there were 37 entries. Yes, thank you. I knew I was close. So I see a lot of comments that say, don't let people, don't go past 33 because it's essentially a participation trophy. But I'll turn it over to you guys before I give my thoughts, Jess or John. Jess? Yeah, you guys both brought up great points. Um, especially I get the tradition point of it. Originally when they set the field to 33 cars, back in the 19 teens or 1920s, whenever the 33 was decided on, it was because of the size of the cars. And obviously safety was a little bit. Sure. That's definitely a fair point that I did not take into consideration. But um, I hope I get some people saying that they hope there's more than 33, because sponsors are paying money. But at the same time, I'm with Jess, and it's what we've kind of grown accustomed to. But if at the same time, if they come and they decide, listen, it's 35 cars, as long as car 34 and 35 can run at a reasonable pace and aren't way off the pace, I don't really see a big issue with it. We'll make that our Pit Lane Parlay Twitter poll of the week, to get everybody else's input on that one. If you get a car that's 10 miles an hour slower than the guy right above him, that's probably he doesn't need to be racing. But if everybody is reasonably competitive, I think if you have a 34th car, there's no big issue there. And with that, Jess, I will let you give the first pitfall of the week because I think yours is probably the best one that we have. Again, before I before we go any further, I don't know. Did you see her very team issued apology that came out today? It's your generic. apology that probably was just typed up and repeated. I know it didn't make me feel a whole lot better about anything she said. Um, John, I'll turn it over to you, whether you want to chime in or if you want to have a pitfall of your own. If not, I have a quick one before we wrap it up. Yeah, yeah. I can't argue that one. I didn't watch the race, but I saw the Harvick window issue, and feels like NASCAR kind of each week just kind of does whatever they want to do, and adds rules in or subtracts rules out whenever they feel like it. So I'll leave it at that. And my pitfall, I'm going to keep mine short and simple here. Um, you know, Now that we're approaching IndyCar season, and approaching one of the more highly anticipated seasons in a number of years, you have the first race this weekend, great, and then we don't have a race again for 3 weeks, almost a month. And I know it's not a huge deal, because once April rolls around, it's back to back weekends before the month of May, so it'll really pick up. But I would like to see IndyCar be able to find a race to throw in there mid March at some point to really keep that momentum going. Uh, Anybody else have an opinion on that one, or should we wrap it up? I think that's fair. Jess? Yeah, very well said. And before we wrap things up, again, the race this weekend, the race itself is on ABC. Each practice, starting at 11:20 on Friday, is live streamed on racecontrol.indycar.com. The two practices Friday, the practice and qualifying on Saturday, and final warm-ups Sunday morning before what could be a rain race if the forecast holds up. So that could throw a wrench into the first race in this new AeroKit era. And again, you can find the podcast on iTunes and Google Play and Stitcher and Podbean. And as I announced about an hour ago, Castbox, which is a new, I believe, a newer app that's out there. And Fridays from 3:15 to 4:15, you can find the show on Wildfire Radio, which is at underscore Wildfire Radio Sports. And let me grab their website for everybody so you have it, because you can also find it on their website. They do have an app for Android and iOS. Or if you want to listen online on their website, it's wildfireradiosports.com. And plenty of great other sport programs, and a new writer, just IndyCar writer, got added to the team in Mike Silver, who I believe is based somewhere down in the St. Pete area. So great things coming from the Wildfire team. John, thank you, very much for joining us this evening. And if you guys don't have anything else, Jess, I'll let you sign it off. Yeah, for sure. And for those out there who don't follow John, his Instagram and Twitter are at Indie Oreo. And pretty simple. Any other website or anything you need to plug in there? Yes, for sure. Definitely count on that one. And with that, Jess, I will let you sign it off.